why. Clarity about who does what is the foundation of every successful project. A technology company has been building a new mobile application for 8 months. The launch date is set. The marketing campaign is ready. The App Store submission is prepared. 3 days before launch, the QA team discovers a critical security vulnerability. The development lead says it is a product decision. The product manager says it is a technical decision. The CTO says the launch team should decide. The project manager asks who the launch team is. For 48 hours, 5 senior professionals exchange 37 messages, trying to determine who has the authority to delay the launch. Nobody does. The launch proceeds. 2 weeks later, the vulnerability is exploited. Customer data is compromised. The application is pulled from the store. The damage takes 12 months to recover from. In the post-mortem, one finding appeared in every interview with every stakeholder. Everyone had assumed that someone else was accountable for the launch readiness decision. There was no agreed owner. There was a critical decision that needed making, and a room full of talented, experienced professionals who all assumed it belonged to someone else. This is not a story about incompetence. It is a story about what happens when accountability is assumed rather than assigned. Welcome back to The Catalyst. This is episode 10. Today we are covering one of the most practical and most underutilized frameworks in project management. RACI R. Responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. What it is, why it works, how to build it properly, and why most teams get it wrong. RACI is a framework for defining who does what, who owns what, who needs to be asked, and who needs to be told, across every significant task and decision in a project. The 4 letters each have a specific job. Responsible is the person who does the work. Accountable is the single person who owns the outcome. Consulted is the person whose input is required before the task is completed. Informed is the person who needs to know the outcome but does not need to be involved in producing it. Every word matters. The gaps between them, where people confuse responsible with accountable or populate the consulted column with everyone who might have an opinion, are exactly where projects go wrong. RACI is not just a process tool. It is a countermeasure to a documented human psychological tendency. Psychologists John Darley and Bib Latané found this. The more people who witness a situation requiring action, the less likely any individual is to act. They called it the diffusion of responsibility. The presence of others creates a diffuse sense that someone else has it covered. This translates directly into every project team and every meeting room. When a task is not explicitly assigned, when accountability is vague or shared, everyone assumes someone else owns it. RACI works as a countermeasure precisely because it names the accountable person explicitly. When someone's name is in the A column, there is no bystander position available. The decision belongs to one person and everyone knows it. The numbers make the case clearly. Gallup's research identifies role clarity as the single strongest predictor of employee engagement and productivity. Only 47% of employees strongly agree they know what is expected of them at work. Teams with high role clarity show 27% lower absenteeism and 41% lower quality defects. McKinsey found that poor organizational clarity costs organizations an average of 20% of their productive capacity. On a 50-person project team, that is 10 full-time equivalents of wasted effort, not through incompetence, but through ambiguity about who should be doing what. RACI is not bureaucratic overhead. It is a direct investment in project velocity and quality. Let us go through each role, because the nuances are where most implementations succeed or fail. Responsible does the work and delivers the output. There can be multiple R roles for one task, but the R role does the work. The A role owns the outcome. These are not the same thing, and confusing them is the single most common mistake in RACI. Accountable is the single person who owns the outcome and is answerable if something goes wrong. The critical rule, non-negotiable, is exactly one accountable party per task or decision. Not 0, not 2, 1. 0 is what happened in our opening story. 2 is equally dangerous. A financial services firm listed both the head of technology and the head of risk as jointly accountable for a data validation process. Neither would approve anything unilaterally. Implementation took 4 months longer than planned. Moving to one accountable and one consulted cut decision cycle time by 60%. Consulted is the person whose expertise must be sought before the task is completed. The critical discipline here: keep the C column lean. Research by Bain & Company found that most organizations over-consult. The result is decision paralysis. Ask honestly, does this person have information that would materially change the decision? If yes, consult. If not, move them to informed or remove them entirely. Informed is one-directional. No input is sought. The person is notified of the outcome. Over-informing creates noise that dilutes genuinely important communications. 5 steps that build a RACI that actually gets used, rather than sitting in a spreadsheet and getting ignored. First, identify your tasks and decisions. Not every micro-task, but the tasks and decisions where accountability ambiguity creates risk. Critically, include decisions, not just deliverables. The go-live decision, the budget escalation threshold, the vendor selection call. Decisions are where RACI is most needed and most often absent. Second, list roles, not names. Role-based RACI. Product owner, tech lead, project manager, client sponsor, survives personnel changes without being rebuilt from scratch. Third, build a draft alone first. Your assumptions are the raw material for the conversation that follows. Fourth, facilitate the RACI conversation. Walk all key stakeholders through the draft row by row. The moments when 2 people discover they both assumed they owned the same decision, those moments are worth more than the completed document. The conversation is the value. The document is the record. Fifth, apply the 3 rules throughout. 1 A per row. At least 1 R per row. Keep C lean. 5 failure modes appear most consistently in project post-mortems. Multiple accountable parties. If 2 people share the A, both assume the other will act when it matters most. RACI built in a silo. People do not own what they did not help create. They comply until something goes wrong. C overload. 7 people consulted on a routine decision. In a 30-day decision window, 5 rounds of stakeholder consultation can consume the entire window before the decision is made. RACI never updated. Built at kickoff, filed away, never revisited. An outdated RACI is worse than no RACI. It creates false confidence in accountability structures that no longer exist. Missing decisions. The RACI covers deliverables beautifully, but says nothing about who is accountable for the go-leave decision or the budget overrun decision. Decisions are where RACI is most needed and most often absent. One persistent misconception. that RACI is a waterfall tool, incompatible with agile ways of working. This is wrong. In agile contexts, apply RACI at the decision type level rather than the task level. You do not RACI individual user stories. You RACI the decision types that recur across sprints. Who is accountable for backlog prioritization? Who owns the release decision? A fintech company applied RACI across 12 agile squads by defining 4 decision categories: product, technical, process, and business, with a single accountable role for each. Escalation delays fell by 40% because every team member knew exactly which type of decision required which type of approval. RACI does not constrain agility. Lack of clarity about who can make which decisions constrains agility. RACI is the solution. Remote and hybrid working has amplified both the value of RACI and the cost of its absence. In a co-located team, informal role clarity survives through corridor conversations and shared visibility. In a distributed team, that clarity evaporates. Accountability gaps that would be caught informally in a physical office go undetected for days or weeks remotely. With a RACI, the accountable party knows the decision is theirs. They can make it, document it, and communicate it asynchronously without waiting for a meeting to convene. 5 things to carry from this episode. 1. Accountability does not happen by default. The diffusion of responsibility is a documented human tendency. RACI names one owner for every task and decision and removes the bystander position entirely. 2. The most important letter in RACI is A, exactly 1 person per task. Not 0, not 2, 1, 3. The RACI conversation is more valuable than the RACI document. The moment 2 people discover they both assumed they owned the same decision, that is the value. The document is just the record. 4. Keep the C column lean. Over-consulting is as dangerous as under-consulting. If everyone is consulted, nobody decides. 5. RACI is a living document. Built at kickoff and never updated, it becomes a map of a project that no longer exists. Review it at every major phase gate. Here is your action for this week. Name the single most important decision your project needs to make in the next 2 weeks. Who is accountable for that decision? If your honest answer is anything other than one specific person's name, that is the gap RACI was designed to close. Start there. Coming up on episode 11, we go beyond RACI. RACI, DACI, Rapid and OARP. What each one does differently, which contexts each serves best, and how to choose the right framework for the right project. The Catalyst continues.